Hey guys, it's Musa here from Quantum Home Improvements and Solutions. Welcome to our live chat as we talk about how to incubate chickens or chicks and raise healthy chickens. And with me today I've got Dave, Joe and Xiaomi. Hey guys, thanks for being with us. And sorry once again for the sound. So what we're going to talk about is basically from beginning to end of raising chickens. And I've made 4 videos. And it's quite interesting because when you're making videos and you upload them, you don't know who's watching and what they're getting out of it. I've known Dave and Joe for about 8 years now, and Xiaomi probably about 4 years. And one day I had a conversation with Joe, and he revealed to me that he was trying to make the drip feeder, so the nipple feeder for his chickens. The reason being because if you have dirty water for your chickens, they can actually get quite sick, and I've had a bit of experience with that over the years. And so so we tried different methods, and I was spending a lot of money with these feeders, and I just was really just going nowhere with it until I came across these nipple feeders, and then I made a video on that. So Joe actually watched it, and he actually tried it, and what was your how successful was that for you, Joe?
Oh, very successful. My chickens weren't in a good state.
Yeah.
And I inherited some chickens, and they were pretty sick.
Yeah.
They weren't laying any eggs, and feathers were falling out, and I was wondering what was wrong with them. And I watched the video on the feeder, and decided to make it. It was a big success. And
I haven't looked back. Mine is so healthy now. But saying that, when you're breeding chickens, your chickens have to be healthy so you can have healthy eggs. And so bacteria is one of the biggest problems. And so I found some of my chickens were getting really sick from some of the bugs going around when I had to start learning and understanding. So I started to use these products here. First of all, it's not just bacteria, but also you have heat problem in the sun. So I'll show you this one in a sec. So if your chickens are having heat stress, there is something you can use. So there's 2 things that I came across that really chickens struggle with. So there's a thing called fowl pox, and with fowl pox, you cannot cure that. You've got to let it run its course, the chickens, and usually it'll last about 1 to 2 weeks. And you can identify fowl pox by seeing on their comb or their wattle, or sometimes around their beak, black marks, and sometimes it can get pretty ugly, and you'll see the mouth frothing. So that usually identifies fowl pox. And so and if they're chicks, unfortunately the chicks may actually die. You might not be able to help the chicks. But another thing that I found even worse than fowl pox is, and I've got to try to pronounce this properly, so it's coccidiosis. If you can just read that for me, Jen.
Coccidiosis.
Yeah, so coccidiosis. It's quite bad. It's a bug that goes into the chicken, into the intestines, and it stops the chicken from digesting the food. And so, if the chickens are pooing blood, that they've got that virus. So, coprical or how did I say it? Cocciprol, thank you. That I found to be really effective. That actually helps the chickens quite effectively. So you've got to put in their water. So it'll tell you on the container how much you put, per how many litres, and you've got to feed that. And usually if you've got this problem, you segregate your chickens from the others so they don't get sick, because they will breed through the water or through their poos, and the chickens will then start catching the same infection or disease or whatever it is. So yeah, this does help. And just as a well-being for chickens, when they've got a negative bacteria or even a positive bacteria, oxymab B, which is full of vitamins and things for the chickens, that actually helps them just to give them a bit more, chance of fighting whatever problems they might have. So I found these really work well, but the reality is once I went to a nipple feeder, I stopped using these. So because they became really healthy, you've got to have a good environment for them. And so there are supplements you can give them as well, which is liver mole. Now, liver mole is used for many different animals, and it's a protein and a polyunsaturated oil. So this works really well for chickens as well. This is controversial whether you use this or not. I'll get you to pronounce that.
Diatomicus.
Yeah, so animals can actually die from that with a large volume. So you put a very small amount of this into their food, but you don't give them too much at all. So there's a bit of controversy. It does help them with their, it says here, helps them with just with their feathers and have a better body. So if you find in winter time you're not getting many eggs, if you give them a little bit of that, they'll just help them to grow their feathers faster, so they're not using up their protein for the eggs, but they're instead of using for their feathers. So that just helps just the process a bit quicker. So anyway, the reason I started talking about that first, because if you're going to breed chickens, it's not just about collecting an egg that's fertilized. I mean, that's just the first part. If the egg has any kind of virus, that's going to be an issue. So when you incubate them, you put them in the incubator and you go through the process. I'll talk more of that process in a minute, but when you go through that process, when you get to about the 8th day, 9th day, 10th day, you candle the egg. Usually you candle the egg 6 to 8 days, but when you get into that level and you candle the eggs, you'll see a big cloud around your egg, and that's because there's bacteria in the egg. And if you leave it too long, it'll actually explode. It gets to the point where and it will infect all the other eggs. So pretty much it'll destroy your incubation. So it's really important to have healthy chickens so you can have healthy eggs. Okay, and then so we want to breed. So we do breed chickens for our eggs and also for meat. So I'll make that very clear. We won't talk too much about dispatching, but we will talk a bit about it. I know some people are sensitive to that, and I am very aware of that. So we started breeding, well, we bought our first chickens 4 years ago. And we had 3 leghorns and hens, sorry, 3 hen leghorns and 1 rooster. And from that, we've increased our breed. And then we went into Plymouth Rocks. A friend of mine couldn't be with us today. He was part of our dispatching video, Mick. Him and I have had a lot of conversations, so he got me into Plymouth Rocks as well. So I've also given Joe some eggs, and how did you go with that? And we incubated them.
Yeah, awesome. I had 2 goes at incubation. The first go gave me about 8 eggs, one of which wasn't even fertilized, unfortunately.
Yep.
One was an early quitter after about the day 8 when I candled them for the first time.
Yep.
One unfortunately didn't make it as it was hatching. This was due to, I think, to the temperature variation of my incubator. I had it set up in my shed.
Yeah.
The temperature varied a lot throughout the evening and in early morning. So, and I also had other issues with my chickens in the first incubation.
Yeah.
Curled toes.
Which came from cold. Was the incubator on too cold or?
Yeah.
So yeah, when you're incubating chicks, you've got to put them at 37.5 degrees Celsius for the first 18 days. And so if you do that, it gives them a good fighting chance. But then when you've got to take them off the cradle, because your incubators, most of them have cradles these days, so they're slowly tilting. You take them off that tilter because they can't hatch on those. They can't. They can actually hurt themselves with the tilter. So you take them off that on the 18th day, and then you quickly you can do a quick candle, and you put it back in the incubator, and you take out the ones that have not succeeded, and then you close the lid, and you do not open that at all for until they all hatch. Now, saying that, I have done a breed just in the last few weeks, and so I've got some chicks here. They're a bit quiet at the moment. They will go off their heads in a minute, but there was so many in the incubator that were actually turning up all the other eggs, and there were 2 chicks were actually hatching, and because they've rolled them over too many times that they didn't allow them to come out. So I decided to do something which I don't normally do. I have the incubator on a wheel on a table that has wheels. I wheeled it to the bathroom. I put it on the shower, steamed up the room because you really can't let that humidity escape from the incubator. At that point, I'll explain to you in a minute why. So then I steamed up the room, took the lid off, took out all the chicks that were hatched, and allowed a greater chance for the others. But then I candled, and I found because they had been rolled over so many times, I had 6 more eggs that would fail because they were being disturbed by these chicks. So chicks can stay in an incubator up to 3 days, but I tend to like to leave about 2.5 days. They have enough food from the umbilical cord, the sac that they feed from. They have enough food from that to survive at least 3 days. So they don't need to eat until after that. So I was going to say that with the reason you don't open the lid, and the humidity has to be up to 80% when the last 3 days. If it doesn't get to 80%, there's two membranes inside the egg, on the outer part of the inside egg, just before the shell. And those two membranes have fluid between them, just a slight bit. If you open the lid and take out the humidity, it dries out the egg because the shell is porous, and that's where they get the oxygen from, through the shell, through the membranes and into the actual the center of the egg. So if you open them, you actually basically, I remember someone saying it's like you cling wrap them. You actually get them jammed in the egg and they can't get out. So so you need humidity in the incubator. So if you are going to take your chicks out early, give that a shot. Try to take your incubator to the bathroom, steam it up, get it real steamed up, and then take the chicks out, put the lid back on, get it back to its temperature, and get them going again. So besides, I mean, the shed thing you were talking about, when I did my last video, and I'll be releasing a new video soon, I found that the temperature drop was the biggest problem with my eBay incubator. That was really bad. And so that temperature drop was about 2.5 degrees, and that 2.5 degrees is enough to actually stop the formation of the embryo and become a proper egg, proper chick, sorry.
Yeah, during my first incubation, I had it set at 37.5 degrees, but unfortunately, as you know, the night fell and got a lot under that. So the next time I incubated, I actually went to max temperature. I went up to 40 to allow for that 2.5 degree drop. But by saying that, also I took the incubator inside the house in a stable environment. And got much better results from that. Did
you put a digital thermometer independent to see what temperature it was?
As well.
That always works well. Yeah. I haven't done it with this incubation, so I've just now purchased a Barotto incubator, and it's a bit more expensive than the cheap eBay incubators, but I can tell you it's worth the money. It's quite a good incubator, and so I'll be doing a review video on that. And so I also made a video on a mobile chicken coop, and the reason I've done that, because we do dispatch our chickens, you need chickens to go pretty quickly before you dispatch them, because you don't want to dispatch them past around 12 weeks old. Because once you go over 12 weeks, the chicks actually they become too tough. The chickens become a tough meat, so you can't really use them more for. You can put them in a pressure cooker if they're tough, or you can mince them or boil them. But you're sort of limiting what you can use the chickens for. So yeah, to dispatch chickens usually should be anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. So I made a mobile chicken coop so they can eat on the grass, and I just keep moving that mobile chicken coop. So they grow faster that way. They've got more nourishment from the grubs in the soil. The great thing about it also, it protects them from the predators, because we are on acreage here, so we do get foxes and other predators here. But also it allows the nitrogen from the chicken, from their droppings, to go back into the soil. So it's improving my soil quality just next to my property. So just out here is where we had them, and you can see the grass is actually quite green. There's a lot of clover here, but clover tends to grow, it's actually a good sign that we don't have enough nitrogen. So we know that, and if you leave the clover there, the clover actually brings nitrogen back, I believe. But anyway, the chickens help as well. So we do that so we can grow them faster and they're more healthier. But so what do you grow in your chickens in? You've got you've made a mobile unit of some type.
I haven't yet. That's a plan. Because now I've got a Plymouth Rock rooster and two hens. So the plan is to do the incubation process again in a couple of months' time. And do a mobile coop, different. I've got an old trampoline.
You were telling me, that's right.
So I might just make that mobile coop with the trampoline down the back of the property and do the same.
I'm just seeing if there's any messages. No, I can't see from here. I think I can see Mamby. Mamby's the fella that I'm just going to check something. Sorry. No, I'm just trying to see my messages. Can you see the messages? Good. Yeah, that's right. It's feedback. Thanks, Mamby. Yeah, good. Thanks, Mandy, for helping me with the visual and audio. I'm using a webcam now for the first time with the advice of Mandy. Hopefully you get a better sound, and also I'm hoping that the picture's better. But I'm just about to grab a chick to show you. Dave, he doesn't say much, but Dave and Xiaoming were both on our dispatching chicken video, and they were crucial to the day. Do you remember how it was on that day?
Oh, the weather was a bit complicated.
It was very complicated. There was so much rain. How many times did we go out of the rain? Oh man, we just kept going in and out, in and out. Okay, good. Let's go back, guys. Make the video. Yeah, it was quite interesting. I was so focused on trying to make the video. We had gloves on and so focused on what we're doing. And anyway, so when I was doing the cutting on the preparation, I had the knife the wrong way around, and I'm in a bit of a hurry, and I went to do the cut, and the knife was upside down and cut my finger. That was quite interesting. So I had to put a band-aid on that. It was a crazy day, crazy day. Dave and somebody were running around collecting all the chickens for me. That was quite interesting. You don't see it much on video, but they were a crucial part of the video actually. But because we had the rain, I wasn't turning the camera around enough. And actually, Dave sent me a message yesterday. I forgot to mention. He sent me a foul message. What was the message? I can't remember. He said, "I hope it's a good day," and he told me, "Don't be chicken," or something like that.
Let's see, we are missing chicken.
Yeah, that's it. That was chicken. Anyway. So anyway, I'm just about to grab a chick. So I'll just I'll move the cam. I'll just take the cam out, just show you where these chicks are here in our little brooder. Here we go. So here are the chicks. They're for the moment. But I'll grab a Plymouth Rock, which is this one here. Here we go. Do you want one, Dave? You grab one. Come on. I'll just put the webcam back. Yep. There we go. So here we go. So here's a baby Plymouth Rock. Oh, sorry. Dave, can you just pull that wire out of the way? Sorry. It's actually, yeah, it's fine. Thanks, Dave. All right, so yeah, so this is a Plymouth Rock. It's only 2 days old. So Plymouth Rocks usually come out black, and you can see a bit of white on the head just here. Hopefully you can see that on video. And so, and they have a little bit of black on their beak and a bit of black on their legs. Now, I've noticed if they've got black on their legs and their beak, usually they're a female. Sammy was asking me earlier.
Yeah. How can you tell whether the chick is a hen or a rooster at this stage? Okay,
so these two you should be able to tell. Okay, so there's a number of ways. So in about a day or two, these feathers are going to start growing. So you can sex them by the feathers. And I'm going to try to get my head around which way it was. So if the feather is mainly long and short, then I think that's a hen. Is that by memory? I can't remember actually. But the way I tell is by the vent. So you turn it upside down. Got to be very careful because it might do a poo. If you pull the vent back, and the chickens have just one vent. So the vent is where they poo, where they lay their eggs, and where they have their interaction sexually. So in the back there, you'll see just a little bit of a spike if it's a rooster, and that generally is how you tell. But saying that, the hardest chickens I found to identify if they're male or female is actually leghorns, because their feathers don't indicate exactly, and that's probably the most common way of sexing a chicken, by the feathers. The venting is a bit of an art because it's very hard to see the genitals of a rooster. So this one here that Dave's got is, I'll just swap it with. So this one here is a crossbreed. So this is a cross between a leghorn and a Plymouth Rock. And so you can see the feathers. So the Plymouth Rock is called a bar rock. And the reason they call it a bar rock is if you look at the feathers, you see that there's bars of feathers, black and white. And the rooster has a more even cover where the hen is more predominantly black. Is that right?
So it appears more greyish in colour when the feathers come out, whereas the hens are more predominantly black.
Yeah. But this one's going to be a nice one. This is going to be a nice colour. Some of the crossbreeds do come out just white, and you can see a bit of barring on their feathers, but not much. But there's a noticeable difference between the two chickens. the Plymouth Rock in the back here, when the grows older, it has this little hump, identified hump on the back, and the feathers go downwards, but the Leghorn's feathers go up. Okay, so there's an identifiable difference. And with a crossbreed, sometimes it's hard to discover which one's which. So yeah, so maybe you want to, that's quite a big one actually. It's quite a big one. Watch out, it might jump. So these are about 1 to 2 days old. We do have other chicks coming out of the incubator now. So yeah, in the future I will be releasing that the video on the Barotto and just doing a review on it. And yeah, so I mean, did you ever have chickens back home?
No. Yeah, I have a dog. So
Yeah.
if I have a chicken, you'll be in serious danger.
So I mean, just a bit of a background. He did come from China, and he's been in Australia for a number of years now. I think he speaks quite well. His vocabulary is quite large. He's studied law, and just recently he was put on the, what was it?
Roll.
On the roll. That's
On the
it.
roll.
So he's now a lawyer, and very soon hopefully he'll become a solicitor.
Yeah, very soon.
Yeah. So anyway, that's good. Good. And yeah, so I've just got to go through here a few notes I want to go through. Now, when you notice when I went to pick the chicks up, there's a red light in there. Do you guys know why there's a red light? Okay, I'll just explain to you. Chicks tend to go to red. So the red attracts chicks, and they do like to eat meat, and they do go to blood. So with chicks, they will peck at each other, and they can actually kill each other. I've seen that a number of times. So when you have a red light, it makes everything red. So it's hard for them to identify what is red. Okay, because everything looks red, and so they don't tend to attack each other as much. Plus, just saying to Joe earlier that the red light also makes it a little bit darker. So I think they're able to maybe sleep a bit better with that as well. Possibly, I'm not sure of that actually, but yeah. So how did you find when you were growing your first couple of days? How did you find that?
Yeah, it was a bit of an eye opener. Doing it for the first time, you sort of don't know what to expect when you know they come out. So yeah, you're always thinking, oh, are they going to eat properly? Are they going to drink properly? You're always checking on them.
Yeah.
You know, the kids want to touch them and grab them and play with them, which is understandable.
Yeah.
But
you made a drip feeder.
I did. I made a drip feeder.
Yeah.
Only because I wanted them to get used to.
Yeah.
From the drip feeder.
So they were actually started first when they were born.
The first drip was from a drip feeder.
Yeah.
So I used a honey container.
Yeah. Did you make your own honey? Yeah.
Yeah, I've got these, and yeah, just got a container, and I drilled a hole down the bottom of the container. Yeah. Put the feeder in. Yeah. A bit of silicone.
Yeah.
And they were able to have fresh water.
Beautiful.
Daily.
Good. And so as I said earlier, the process, and I want to talk about this, the process of breeding chickens. Now there is a bit of a process. First of all, you've got to collect your eggs; they've got to be healthy. Now you can have a little bit of poo on the egg, but generally, if you've got too much poo on there, the eggs will be infected. They could have bacteria, so that could fail the eggs. So the most important part is that you clean the eggs. But how do you clean them? If you use warm water, that actually can help, because the egg is porous, it can actually help bring the bacteria into the egg. So what we use is hydrogen peroxide, 3%. You can get that from your chemist. And so we've been using that for the last probably 10 breeds. I've done 21 breeds, and the last 10 we've been using hydrogen peroxide. It does actually help the chickens with their survival rate, or the chicks. And so we wipe them down, just we put gloves on and wipe them down. If you watch the video, I'll put a link in this video, in this live chat already, so you can see how I've done that, and I explain it a lot more clearer than what we'll do during this live chat. So first you clean the eggs with the hydrogen peroxide, place them in the incubator, and some incubators actually date the when you start until it does a count on the days. With this Barotto, the only thing it doesn't have is a count. So you've actually got to put it down in your diary and then know which days are which. They're very crucial days, because for the first 18 days, your humidity is about 60%. Okay, so you need to keep that water up. And so You can open the incubator, but I would suggest only to open it 3 times during the incubation period. So the first time is when you candle, anywhere from 6 to 8 days. Okay, so you need to get those eggs out that are not fertilised and haven't become an embryo or haven't formed into a good-sized embryo. And about 6 days, you'll see the vessels and the embryo will be probably about 4 or 5 mil, close to a quarter. Quarter of an inch, close to. Maybe it depends on how the egg is proceeding. Some start a bit later in the incubator. So the second time you would open it is on the 18th day. And so what they call that is lockdown. I know it sounds strange, what we went through the last couple of years, but lockdown is when you just take the eggs out, you can candle one more time, take out the ones that are not good, and you lock it down. Don't open it again, and you put more water into the chambers. And it's really important to get that humidity up. You've got to get it up pretty high. So, and then it just allows those membranes to be, to be independent. Soften up, and yeah, it really does help. So, and then when the chicks start hatching, which usually is around the 21st day, but you'll find some will start pecking through on the 20th day. And so that can happen, and it will happen sometimes. And so that means if that does happen, it's going to make it harder for the ones that haven't hatched yet, because they will, as I said before, push the other eggs around and could actually fail the other eggs. So it's really crucial at this stage. So as I said, I took then, you can do this. You take your incubator to the bathroom, steam it up, take your eggs out, your chicks out, and let the others survive. So that will make a really good yield of eggs. Depends on your incubator. If your incubator is fluctuating in temperature, on the 18th day, you go down to 37 degrees. You've got to drop that temperature down by half a degree. That's in Celsius. I find that works really well for me. And there's some YouTubers telling you different temperatures. And when you do different temperatures, as you found, it's really important to talk about. If it's too cold, and they survive, their feet will deform. So the toes will be curled, or their legs will splay. They'll come out, and they won't be able to walk. So that's really an issue. I had a lot of that happen in the early part of incubating. So if their legs are curled, as Joe was saying earlier, you get some masking tape or some painting tape, and you just cut little pieces and you place it under their feet, spread their toes, place it under their feet, and put one on top and stick them all together. Okay, and you can snip in between just to give them a bit of flexible room to move, but they'll let their feet grow straighter, and that does help, and it can help. But most of mine have worked like that. The biggest problem is when their legs are swaying, when they're out. That's hard because they can't get to the water and food, and the others will jump on it and they'll kill it. So the way to fix that is by bringing those legs back together. This is not always successful. You can use an elastic band. So you put an elastic band around the foot. I get an elastic band probably about 3 centimetre, and I put knots on both sides, put little holes on either end, and just put their feet through it. And so it brings their legs together and just gives them better survival. You will have to feed them and water and food for a few days until they get used to it. But another way also is by strengthening the legs. If you put them upside down, it's not going to affect them. I'll just show you this. It actually does relax them. The blood goes to their head and that relaxes them. So if you put them down like that, you'll see they'll want to pull up. They almost do like sit-ups. And what that does is strengthens the legs. So it'll strengthen the legs and it gives them more chance of surviving. So you can see how it's pulling up. That gives more strength as well. So just a technique. Not all these techniques are going to work, by the way. We've had a lot of fail because the temperature was too cold. So you've got to get that temperature up. And good to put it in a room. They do suggest that the room should be around about 30 degrees. 20 degrees. 20 degrees Celsius. So the room should be 20 degrees Celsius. And so that temperature is consistent. Okay, so that'll help. One thing I really mentioned when you're collecting your eggs, you need to keep those eggs stored. You can store them up to 10 days, but you need to store them for around 15 degrees Celsius. And you can incubate. Usually it's a higher success rate if they're under 7 days, those eggs. So I've had a problem with my chicks. They haven't been giving me enough eggs. So this last incubation, I actually went up to 10 days. And it didn't give me the best result because it went up to 10 days. But the incubator itself is really good. As I said, I'll be doing a review on that. But how did you find the eggs I gave you were only 7 days?
Yes, good yield.
Yeah.
When I counted the unfertilised eggs and what was left over, I think we were up at about 80%.
Beautiful. That's what you want.
Yeah.
80% is a good number, but you've got a good incubator and also a small one.
It's a small one.
The bigger the incubator, the worse the temperature is distributed, and so the actual percentage rate actually fails. So it's quite crucial to get those temperatures right. I'm just going to check if there's any messages here. Now, guys, I want to ask you, when we're dispatching chickens, I would just like to just touch on this. I want to go too much into it. How did you find the process when I put the chicken upside down into the hanging comb? You saw the process. When you're dispatching chickens, you need to do it efficiently and humanely. And the way you saw, how did you find?
Yeah, once they went into the comb, they relaxed
Yeah.
very quickly.
Because you're upside down and the blood rushes to the head, so they actually become a bit docile. It is a more humane way of doing it.
Almost to sleep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Very relaxed and,
Now, you would have a similar background to me in the sense that my father had leghorns when I was a kid and would never let me see him dispatching, right? And probably a good thing for me. When you were growing up, you also dispatched chickens, is that correct?
we didn't, yeah, we didn't grow our own chickens,
But you brought them in and dispatched
on a
them?
different farm.
Yeah.
We went and dispatched them, but that was, yeah, the method we used then was a little bit different.
Yeah, my dad would use the same method where they run around everywhere and they really, it's not good. Yeah.
This way, the way we do it now is a lot more humane.
Yeah.
A lot more relaxed, I think. And
Yeah.
I think the meat comes more tender too, and it's
Yeah.
when they're relaxed. When
I actually wrote some notes here, and thanks for reminding me, Dave. So the first thing I do to have a good soft meat chicken is I free range them with the mobile chicken coop. Now, free range it tends to mean that you let them open in open air. For me, I'm calling free range they're eating grass all the time. We just keep moving the mobile chicken coop.
Oh, just a question.
Yeah.
When you do that, do you still give them pellets as well?
Both, yeah, both. Because the pellets got more protein than what the grass will have. They'll find, bugs and stuff, and that's good protein for them, but they're not going to grow fast, so you need both. So you'll find I use Villa feed, so I use the starter, the grower, and the layer, and I find their price is really good, but they're actually a really good product. And there's so many more expensive ones on the market, they claim all this, that, and the other, but I found that Villa was actually, a value for money. Right.
It's also medicated.
Yeah, that's correct. I find them really good. I really do. So that's the first thing. Growing the chickens fast and healthy. That's so you'll have that soft meat there. Dispatching between 8 to 12 weeks will give you a soft meat. Okay. I believe KFC dispatch their chicken or buy chickens dispatched around 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, but they're growing them in a very different way. They're growing them very fast with I don't know if you've heard the methods where they put lights on and off every 12 hours, so they're eating twice as much as they would normally. So they grow these chickens very, very quickly and not free range, right? So the way we're doing it is probably more natural and probably, as I said, more humane, right? The second way, when you are dispatching, is by turning them upside down and relaxing them. Okay, and then you do the slither around the cone, around the wattle, sorry. Okay, and you just make a slither. That's all you do. Okay, and they just slowly fade away. Okay, and that's what I found. And when they slowly fade away, it becomes a lot easier. They don't jerk around. They just fade away. And as you saw in the video, Sharon, did you get to see that? Like you would chase the chickens a lot. Did you get to see that part?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you might have even helped me with that, didn't you?
Yeah,
I
I
can't
think
remember.
I did
I can't remember.
twice.
I can't remember. And how did you find that? Just quickly.
I find that actually very straightforward. It's much easier than I thought.
Yeah. Good. It didn't stress me out as well, let me tell you. Okay, so so the way you actually dispatch them is important. So you relax them, then you dispatch them with that slither, and that really just calms them. The stress in the chicken is very low at that point. The fourth thing is when you do dispatch them, you've cleaned them and everything, you've defeathered them. I use the chook plucker. If you see the video, I've got the video on that where I use the chook plucker. You defeather them. You clean them, and then you put them in cold water, ice cold water straight away. Okay, and that just the meat, the rigor mortis doesn't set in so quickly, and it just makes the chicken tender. And the last thing that I tend to do is put them in the fridge and let them sit in there for 24 hours before either we eat them or we freeze them. So I just let them sit in the fridge for a little bit, just to relax that meat. Okay, so they're the 5 things I do, and so that gives you a nice tender chicken as well. A lot of these things I learned slowly, but they were very effective. So you've dispatched chickens as well, haven't you?
I have. once again, watching one of your videos, the actual chickens that were sick, I decided to start a new batch from the start. It didn't matter how old they were, and they weren't in a good state. So we used your humane methods.
Beautiful.
And it worked really well.
Yeah, very good. I'm going to put these chicks back because they're going to get cold. And sorry guys, I'll just be a sec. I'll just put them back under this light. There we go. And I've just got to check something behind here. Sorry guys. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. So we haven't got any, many questions. If anyone's got any questions, you're welcome to ask. I believe Jared is on with his kids. They've been breeding chickens, not breeding chickens, they've been raising chickens, and I think they're doing quite well with that. I've just got to check out what else. I want to make sure I cover everything here. I think I've got most of that covered. What do you guys, any, that's what I was going to say here. Anything else, any other experiences you guys might have had?
I got a question.
Yes.
Out of this like incubation process, how many eggs you have and how many chickens you have got?
Okay, so depends on the egg, if it's fertilized or not. And some people do actually ask, do you need a rooster to fertilize hens? Yes, you do. Okay, as every other, or most animals, you need a male and female. Okay, so when the eggs are fertile, then you can collect them up to 7 days, 10 days, but 7 days is more effective. And if you do that, you clean them and you incubate. This is not the natural way. The natural way is the chickens themselves doing it, right? And they do it very different to us in the incubator. But so if you do it that method, you usually will find that probably you'll lose, say, out of my incubator takes 49. Out of the 49, you probably lose maybe about anywhere from 5 to 10 that are not fertilized. Okay, it's very common that you will have a couple of eggs that are not fertilized, as you found out, Joe. From that, the candling of the eggs on the 6th to 8th day, then up to the 18th day, if you recandle them, you'll find probably only 1 or 2 have still not proceeded. So from that, you can then do a calculation. You should get about 80%. So 80% is probably normal if the process is done properly.
And then you might lose some during the hatching process
as
well. So, sometimes they won't be in the correct position to hatch, so they need to pick up the outer shell. And if they're not in the correct position, if they're not, because there's an air sac on top of the egg. So the chicks get into a position, they start pecking around the eggshell, and then they crack it open. But if it's more towards the middle, it limits the chances of doing that.
That's right.
Successfully. So you've got to keep an eye on that. I actually, in my last occupation, there was one that wasn't in the correct position. I kept a close eye on that, and it just wasn't getting around the egg. So I actually quickly took the egg out and helped them away.
And the success rate on that usually is very low, but if you do it properly, slowly, what I found, because chickens have a sac attached to the egg, so it's kind of like a placenta, it works in the same way. Food is fed through the egg yolk and also the protein of the outer egg. The egg white. And so when they're feeding through, if you chip it away and it hasn't fully dislodged from the egg yet, and if you chip away, you can actually break a blood cell and actually leads to death. And you've got to be really careful of that. So you've got to make sure you do only the area where you said, whether it's the air pocket, and you just chip away at that air pocket area and just slowly come down until you can see there's no veins. If there's no veins still looking live, then you can start going for more and more. And it'll actually, because if it hasn't consumed all that food, that's also necessary too, because it needs to consume what's in that sac.
This particular chick was right at the end of the incubation process after day 21. So I thought if I left it any longer, it would have just died in the shell. So I helped it along. It was the last egg, so it wouldn't have impacted too much on the other chicks that were already hatched. So I thought I'd give it a go, and it worked. quite.
So out of the 49, you get how many eventually?
It depends. It depends on the fertility of the eggs. Let's say hatcheries. Forget about incubator, but hatcheries work on overall 80%. Hatcheries. So 80% is a good number. That's what you tend to aim for. Yeah.
Probably about 30, 35.
Yeah, that's right.
That's not
Yeah.
good. The other thing I want to ask you, say you mentioned you got some eggs not fertilized.
Yeah.
You will find them after 8 days. Can you still eat them?
Eat them?
Yeah.
Oh, if they've been in the incubator?
Yeah.
No. Because the temperature's been at 37.5 degrees. And if I wouldn't eat them personally. What I actually do, because the embryo's not formed, I actually recook them and give them back to the chickens. When you open them up, you'll find that the egg yolk is really spilled, like it spills out too quick. Yeah, it's not the same egg anymore.
Okay.
And there might be some bacteria as well.
And there might be an embryo as well. It might have started forming.
Yeah.
And then quit.
Yeah. So I just give it back to the chickens. I recook it and then just give it to the chickens. And Okay, guys. I think we've gone through everything I wanted to go through. Is there anything you guys wanted to go through?
Well, just that the chicken plucking machine. Yeah, when we were little, we had to pluck them by hand.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that before?
I've never seen it before. Yeah, it's so efficient.
Yeah. So the chook plucker is what Dave's referring to. I got that from eBay. Again, if you watch the video, you'll see the link to if you're looking to get a chook plucker. They work really effectively. Now, because of the rain factor as well on the day, my brain wasn't functioning. I was trying to hurry up and try to, quickly do everything. We started doing we put the chickens in the chook plucker, which defeathers the chickens. But I forgot to put the water on for the first couple of seconds. So we sort of had to backtrack. So it took a little bit longer. But usually plucking chickens, it's around probably about 15 to 30 seconds. So it's defeathered. And usually the size of the plucker I've got, usually to put 2 in there. Because one is probably too small and doesn't get to grip everything. So if you put 2, they sort of bounce off each other. But anyway, so I have no more to say. How about you guys?
No.
Hey guys, thanks very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
And so I'll be releasing the video on the chicks very soon. I've just got I've got a few other videos that I'm trying to edit. I'm just not sure which one's is going to be the next one. So thanks very much for joining us. Thank you for your support. Just so you know, we have become monetized by YouTube, and we're slowly getting there. We're working on ad revenue now, so it's not a lot of money, but in time, when the channel grows, I think it'll be a good income. So we are on our way, and so I just want to thank you all for supporting and helping us with that. That really does help, and thanks for being just patient with me, especially today. Do apologise about the sound. We're trying to get used to this new webcam, and I stuffed up and left the volume on the computer, which was reverbing. So sorry about that. Anyway, guys, thank you very much, and we'll see you very soon. Thanks, guys.